So now let's talk about methods. So basically all methods are, is they're a way to very easily format variable values so that they're more appropriate for whatever use that you particularly need. So imagine if you're having people input information into a system, some of the users are going to input everything uppercase, some of it's going to be all lowercase, some of them are going to do some weird stuff with the capitalization, and remember all that stuff is going to get dumped into your database, and you probably want to try to clean that up before it hits your database so there's not any kind of weird problems going into the future. There are different methods out there that allow you to clean up that type of data. There's what's called a lower method, an upper method, or a title method. So basically what you do is you call the variable name, then you do period, and then you do whatever the method is that you're going to be using. So lower parentheses, or upper parentheses, or title parentheses, and these will then modify the text automatically so that it will be whatever that particular method does. So the lower method makes everything lowercase, the upper method makes everything uppercase, and the title method, basically it makes the first character in a word uppercase and everything else lowercase. So we can go here to VS Code to see how this works. So let's say you're having a user that's inputting their name, and they do what users are always gonna do, right? Lowercase b, uppercase O, lowercase b, uppercase j, lowercase o n e, uppercase s, because for whatever reason, right? And again, one of the things you really need to be thinking about is as you're inputting information into your data stores, most likely your database, do you want to clean it up so that you don't get this kind of stuff that can be relatively hard to read, and there might also be problems trying to process it in the future. So one of the things you can do is you can use the method to try to clean up that value. So here all we're going to do is we're going to print out the variable value of name. First we're going to do it with no modification, then it's going to be name.lower, so everything will be lowercase, name.upper, so everything will be uppercase, or name.title, so that B, lowercase o b, j, lowercase o n e, and s. If we're going to run this then, this is how it's going to look. So we can see Bob Jones, that's how it originally was. Now Bob Jones all lowercase, now Bob Jones all uppercase, and now Bob Jones as the title, B uppercase, O B, J uppercase, O N E S. And so this is a few of the methods that you can use to modify text that users are putting into your system. Now another method that exists that you will be using a lot is something called the split method. And so what the split method does is it takes a string and then it splits that string into a list based off of the particular character that you tell it to. Right? So imagine you have a CSV file. So this thing's called CSV file, comma separated value files. And so this is kind of sort of like a really low-end database in a way. It's a really low-end data store where you have records. So each line in the CSV file is considered a record, and then the values in the record are separated by commas. So you may have seen this. If you can export a CSV file from Excel, that type of thing, and then input it into some type of database. And so basically what the split method does is it takes the string and then it will split the string based off of whatever character you tell it to and turn that into a list. So here we have the example in VS Code. So this is a string. So record equals, single quotation marks, Bob, so the name, comma 12 for the age, comma boy for the sex, comma large, let's say for the t-shirt size, right? So that's the record coming in, and that might not necessarily be that valuable to you. We're then going to print this out as the record, so you can just see that's what it looks like, and then we're going to use the split method down here. So we're going to say record equals, and then we're going to do record.split, and we're going to split wherever there's a comma. So Bob is going to be index 0, 12 is going to be index 1, boy is going to be index 2, and large is going to be index 3. And then we're going to print this out, and you will see that record is now going to be a list with those different indexes. When we go to run, we hit the triangle button, and so we can see here when we print out the record. So we print out the record, Bob, comma 12, comma boy, comma large, and that is the string. Then after we've split it into a list, we can now see we have the square brackets here. That is what you see when you have a list. And then Bob is going to be at index 0, comma 12 is going to be at index 1, boy is going to be index 2, and large is going to be at index 3. If I haven't taught you lists yet, I'm not sure where that is in the curriculum, but if I haven't taught you lists yet, just kind of keep this in mind for when we get to the list section. The main thing that I want you to see here is basically how you're able to change one data type into a different data type using that split method. Now, one of the other methods that's very useful for cleaning up data is something called the strip method. So if you use a strip method with no other arguments, basically what it'll do is it'll strip out the white space around a variable value. So again, this might be important if you're asking for people's names in a form. Let's say they say Bob, and for whatever reason they hit space once or twice. Well, remember, right, that is a different value than Bob. Bob, right, is a value. Bob with a space is a value. Bob with two spaces is a value. Those are different values, and so you might run into some problems if you don't try to clean that up. So you can use the strip method to strip out the white space around a value that a user inputs. So we have an example of how to strip out the white space, again on VS Code. So let's say we have var equals, and then we have single quotation mark, a couple of spaces Bob, then a couple of spaces before the end single quotation mark, as users like to do. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to print out the var, and I'm putting these hyphens around it just so you can actually see the white space, because it's white space. So it kind of looks blank if you don't know that it's there. So I'm just putting this there so you can kind of get the idea. We're using F strings as we talked about before. So an F string, single quotation mark, a couple of hyphens, then var, and then a couple of hyphens so you can see the white space around the variable. Then we're going to do print, and we're going to do var.strip. So we're going to use the strip method to strip out that white space, and you'll see that the hyphens come in closer. So if we go and we run this particular script, this is what you get, the normal Bob. So Bob as it stands before you put it through the strip method, and then down here, once you put Bob through the strip method, now you see that the white space is no longer there. Now, one of the things with the strip method is you can actually add arguments in here to strip out things in addition to white space. The important thing to understand, though, is when you start stripping out things using the strip method, it will strip from both sides inwards. So if you have a character in the middle and you want to get rid of it, strip would not be the way to go. So here's an example that we have in VS Code. So var equals, and let's say we have Bob and it's within HTML tags for some reason, so you want to get rid of those types of HTML tags. Now to be clear, if you're actually a Python coder, this is a very clunky way of doing it. I'm just showing you how things can be done. You're getting the concept, not necessarily how you do it in the real world. But basically, let's say you wanted to strip away the H1. So you want to strip away the arrows, the H1, the forward slash here. What you can do is you can do print var.strip, and then you do the arrows here, you do the slash, you do H1, and basically all of that will get removed. So when we go and we run this, we will see that now we just have Bob here. The important thing to understand, though, is it's removing from either side, right? Whatever is available there, it will remove. Now, let's say O is in the middle. Let's say for some reason you want to get rid of O. That would not work here. If I simply put O here, right, and we run this again, we still get Bob. Bob is still there, and the reason is because O is in the middle of two B's, therefore we can't get to the O. Let's see here, if I did B, let's say I put B there, so then we could remove B to get to the O. Now we can see that all we're left with is the uppercase B, and so basically that's how you can strip characters from either side. So basically what you have to think about it when you're stripping the characters from either side is it doesn't really matter what order this is in. What it's going to do is it's going to keep trying to strip characters from either side until none of these characters are on either side, and then it will stop. Again, that can be a bit of a clunky way to do things, but it is a way to try to clean up your text in a pretty simple way. Now, one of the other methods that you can use, which is probably the better way to strip out very specific characters somewhere in a long string, is the replace method. So basically with the replace method, what you do is you put in what text you want to be replaced, and then you put in what you want to replace it with, and then it will do that. So if we take a look at this example within VS Code, we have the var here, so var equals, and then we have the blog title. So we'll imagine this is in a content management system or some kind of blogging system, and you went in and you put in all these tags, and now you realize, oi, I need to change those tags. So one of the ways you can go in and do it relatively quickly is by using the replace method. So there's h1 tags in the blog title. So open h1, close h1. So what we're going to do here is we're going to simply print out the value as it stands. Then var is going to equal var.replace, right? So we're going to replace h1 tags with h2 tags to make them smaller, and then we're simply going to print it out here. So when we do that, we can now see that the blog title originally was within h1 tags, and now we did the replace, so it's now within h2 tags, and so it's a very simple way to go in and replace, specific characters within a particular string. Again, if you're trying to remove text for some reason, now let's say with this, let's say we just simply want to remove h1. Again, think about that think about there's some kind of text, you just want to remove it, you don't want anything to be there. Well, basically what you can do is you can say the text, and then you just simply do single quotation mark, no space, just another single quotation mark, so it will replace this with absolutely nothing. And so when we run this, now we can see blog title, h1, close the h1, now we have blog title, we basically have those arrows with no tags in between, and so that's how you can get rid of specific text without using the strip method. So that gives you an idea of what methods are within the Python world. So basically all methods are there ways to be able to modify values of variables relatively easily, mainly to try to clean up your data. Again, imagine somebody is trying to put data into your database. You want to make sure it conforms to whatever standards you have, lowercase, uppercase, that type of thing. Then you can use the lower, upper, or title methods. Also things to be thinking about is things like sanitizing text. We talked about this. We'll talk about this in classes like cybersecurity and that type of deal. What if somebody is trying to put in injection strings? So they type in a command and then they try to type in more to the command to try to attack your system. By using replace or maybe by using strip, you can go through and you can clean out that additional text so that your systems are not compromised by that type of injection attack. So that's what methods do for you, and in the Python world you're going to be using these every single day. There are a lot of other methods out there, so if you're trying to figure out what to do with a variable, essentially just do a Google search or a ChatGPT request, and they should be able to give you some solutions that'll work.